Southern California, good evening. Welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have ourselves a jam-packed show today, such as the Los Angeles Lakers. In about an hour, they'll be taking on their opponent in the Western Confernce Final. Their opponent happens to be the Denver Nuggets. Yes, what happened to the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Confernce Final? The Western Conference semifinals. How did they blow up? How are they hurt? And also, the Sparks. What happened to them? They got trounced by the Connecticut Sun. Now they can bounce to the ball. What happened to them? And can they bounce back next year? Also, the Dodgers have a spot in the playoffs. And the Padres aren't too far back from them either. Can the Angels keep up? Let's not answer that. The Galaxy suffered their first non-win of the season. Was the loss or was the tie? LAX is starting to get back on track. Can the keep up their hot play? Okay. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed of all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. As I said, my name is Teran Rodriguez. Without any further delay, let's get it on with the Southern California sports. Now, I'm actually going to be pitching you a curveball. We're actually going to start off with some WNBA action as opposed to the past few weeks where I've started off with NBA. So, the WNBA, quick and dirty, the Sparks, I cannot believe it. They are out of the playoffs. How and why? They lost to the Connecticut Sun yesterday, 73-59. Let's break this down, shall we? All right. So, yeah, the Connecticut Sun. First and foremost, let's take this back to the whole playoff bracket. The Suns were the Sparks were the number 3 seed, and they earned a first-round bye. And the Sun were the number 7 seed, having pulled off somewhat of an upset against the Chicago Sky, which was a pretty good upset, honestly. So, yeah. Yes, and Larry B says, damn it, Sparks. I couldn't believe it. It was like, I took a look at the score, and I was like, wait, what? Because yesterday, I was mainly watching the Bengals and the Browns. Yeah, go figure. So, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, are we sure this is the right score? And I just refreshed my page a couple times. And then I went to the Sparks' Twitter account, and it's like, dang, they're really down by a lot. And eventually they lost to the Connecticut Sun, which was definitely a disappointment. I think I remember Davidson Crooks or whoever was running the Fast Break Twitter account saying that the Phoenix Mercury were the most disappointing WNBA team of the bubble. Well, let me just tell you something. The Sparks kind of took that title away from them, unfortunately. They only had 2 players in double digits, being Candace Parker and I believe it is Simone Augustus, having 22 points and 10 points. And apparently, Ogwumike didn't play for the Sparks as she had a migraine, which really sucks. Which that's probably the reason why the Sparks didn't win last night, just because that's one of their better players in Ogwumike. So the Sparks unfortunately join the Chicago Sky and the Phoenix Mercury and the Washington Mystics in the eliminated teams from the bubble, as that's going to pretty much be that when it comes to the WNBA. But when it comes to talking about the Sparks, but let's break down how the Sparks just fell off. Like, they were actually doing so good. Like, they were one of the hotter teams in the WNBA, as I think they had like a 9-game winning streak, and then they got pummeled by the Lynx, and then they lost a heartbreaker to the Storm off of a game-winning 3, and then the Mystics stunned them, which really hurt their chances of getting a top 2 spot, which would have been 2 buys. It wouldn't have just been a first-round bye, but a second-round bye as well. And then the Aces basically told the Sparks to fold, so I think when it came down to it, the Sparks kind of just cooled off, and they just disappointed. And I expected so much better, because the Sparks are always a great perennial playoff team. And last year they made it all the way to the semifinals, where they lost to the Connecticut Sun last year. So very disappointing. I mean, I wouldn't really call it a disappointing season, but the fact that they got bounced by a 7 seed is pretty disappointing. And from the East. If it was from the Western Confernce, I wouldn't mind too much. If it was like against the Storm or the Aces or maybe even the Mercury, I wouldn't have minded if the Sparks got bounced. But unfortunately, they got bounced by the 7 seed, being the Connecticut Sun, which was a huge disappointment. I am so disappointed by the fact that the Sparks got lost in the first round. Like, I want to say their loss to the Lynx really, like, decimated them. And they weren't, like, overly terrible, but losing two of your last 3 doesn't really help you going into the playoffs, especially since you lost your last 2 straight, which is not a good confidence booster. Like, it's kind of like how the Patriots lost to the Dolphins, which cost them their first round bye, and they had to go up against the Tennessee Titans. So that's kind of what happened with the Sparks. And then also, this is 2020. Like, a lot of crazy things have been happening, primarily in sports, so anything can happen. So I guess the Connecticut Sun just finally ignited, and they finally just turned on the heat against the Sparks, and eventually the Sparks fizzled out, which really disappointed me. I really thought they were going to have a deep playoff run. But I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Next year, though, Candace Parker did say that she wants to be a Los Angeles Spark for life. And she also won the Defensive Player of the Year. So that was good stuff by Miss Candace Parker. I hate to say this, but she'll have more time to be on Inside the NBA after the Sparks elimination. Which, you have to admit, it is kind of funny. But it's not overly funny, especially if you're a Sparks fan. I mean, it's just disappointing. I think that they could have had a deeper run, but they just lost the games at the wrong moment. Like, you lost to the freaking Mystics, which, to me, I think that could have been avoided. But it is what it is. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes for them next year. But yeah, losing to the Mystics definitely did not help their confidence. And then I would have understood if they had just lost to the Aces, but losing to the Mystics and then losing to the Aces, it's just disappointing. Looking back on the box score, the Sparks only scored 8 points. That is obviously because the Sparks didn't have Ninika Ogumike, who had a migraine. And Derek Fisher said that Ninika did a lot of things for them on the team on both ends of the court, and her efficiency offensively on a night where they struggled really hurt them as well. So it really, really disappointed me that she was out. So either way, that's going to be that for the Sparks. Hopefully things do go up for them going forward, but that's going to pretty much do it for WNBA talk. So now let's jump over to the MLS, as we didn't have any games this week regarding the Galaxy and the and LAFC. There is a game tonight between Seattle and LAFC. Looks like LAFC is kind of back to their winning ways. They beat the Portland Timbers 4-2, but that's not all that good. I mean, I guess that's impressive, but not really. So tonight, LAFC plays the Seattle Sounders. I guess I can kind of if they are truly back, even without Carlos Vela, I can see LAFC possibly winning that match, but I don't know. They need all the wins they can get because they have just been disappointing ever since losing both El Tráfico games to the Galaxy, which is a good segue to go into right now, as the Galaxy suffered their first non-win of the season as they played to a scoreless tie against the San Jose Quakes, which was really disappointing, honestly. I really thought that they were going to maybe at least get one goal, but I guess that's one of the worst ways to lose, just losing off of a scoreless tie. So, oh well, it is what it is. And yes, Leia, the Galaxy are. It's good to see them back rising from the dead, because their MLS's back tournament was not pretty, but they're still undefeated. I mean, they did just tie to the the Quakes, but in regards to the last Western Conference standings, they were 5th in the Western Conference. Surprisingly, Sporting Kansas City was the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, which really surprised me. I really could not believe that, which it's cool. I mean, it's pretty cool if you ask me, but it doesn't look like the Galaxy are going to be playing. I checked the Galaxy schedule, and it looked like they weren't going to play the Sporting KC. Instead, the next 3 batch of matches for the Galaxy consist of Colorado, which will be played tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Then they play Salt Lake next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And then next Sunday, the Galaxy play Seattle, which is going to be on ESPN Deportes, I believe. So, yeah, and big shout out to Adam Karnak saying, putting the little one to bed. I'll try to make it at the end of the show. Hey, I appreciate you stopping by and tuning in, and I definitely appreciate you. We're just scratching the surface right now. Soon the fun is really going to begin. Why? You'll see in a little bit. But anyway, as for LAFC, like I said, they play the Seattle Sounders tonight. I hope they win that game. If they don't, then then it is what it is. I mean, I'm more of a Galaxy type of guy, but I don't necessarily hate LAFC. I mean, if LAFC wins a championship, cool. But if they don't, then they'll always be little brother. Kind of like how the Clippers are with the Lakers. Anyway, as for LAFC's next 3 batches of matches, hey, that's a good rhyme. After LAFC plays Seattle tonight, they play Vancouver Wednesday. And then next Sunday, LAFC plays San Jose, which LAFC just trounced 5-1 the past couple weeks ago, past 11 days ago. So we'll see. Actually, it's been more than 11 days since they last pounded San Jose. It's been 14 days since they last pounded San Jose. So I expect LAFC to maybe make their return. So who's to say? So I to be honest, and I really hate to say this, but I want to say this is phase 2 of getting back into action play, because there is phase 1 return play, and like this is only like phase 1. I think they're now in phase 2, so we'll see. I'm not the biggest MLS expert, but I do know the Galaxy have a solid team, and they're back to doing what they do best, and that's pretty much dominating. I mean, it was, like I said, the MLS's back tournament was very disappointing for the Galaxy, especially since their defense looked pretty sloppy, if you ask me, as we go through the Western Conference, as Sporting KC still leads the pack with a 6-2-3 record. Then we have Seattle in second place. That would be a big win for LAFC, now that I think about it, if they beat Seattle. And then Minnesota is in third place, followed by Dallas, then LAFC, then the LA Galaxy are in sixth place, which is kind of surprising, but it is what it is. Then Portland is in seventh place, Houston is in eighth place, Real Salt Lake is in ninth place, Colorado is in 10th place, so that bodes well for the Galaxy. Vancouver is in 11th place, and bringing up the rear is San Jose. So basically, the Galaxy tied with the dead last team. So that's a little disappointing, but and I think the Galaxy are better than that, but it must have been one of those bad nights, I guess. At least their defense is looking solid. that's kind of a good thing, honestly. I mean, they haven't allowed the opponent to score. Their past two opponents have not scored any goals on them, so that's kind of good. But we'll see what happens with the Galaxy against Colorado, and we'll see if LAFC can actually get back on track and take down Seattle. So I'm excited. I think our MLS teams in Southern California can actually do some damage. So we will see if they can possibly get the job done. So that's going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. Let's jump to a little baseball action as the Dodgers, they were the first team in the MLB to clinch a spot in the playoffs. Good job, Dodgers. So yeah, the Dodgers clinched the first spot in the MLB playoffs, and they're going to be at neutral sites. It's going to be like bubble playoffs, honestly. So that's pretty cool that the MLB is adopting the bubble format. So it's good. It's good, and I like that. So the Dodgers can actually clinch home field advantage with 2 wins, or from the I think it was 2 losses from the Miami Marlins, or a win tonight against the Colorado Rockies, and a loss from the Miami Marlins. That's what I actually heard, honestly. But that is what I did hear about the Dodgers possibly clinching home field. Yes, according to Alana Rizzo, the Dodgers can clinch home field advantage in the National Wild Card Series tonight with either a win over the Rockies and 1 Marlins loss to the Nationals, or 2 losses to the Marlins in their doubleheader against Washington. So yes, that is indeed correct, and I definitely see another person in the chat room. It is my boy Matt Hames. How's it going, Matt? Great to see you tonight, buddy. And he says, "What up? How you doing, Matt?" I'm not gonna gloat too. And Matt says, "Should be Jazz and Lakers. Jazz were robbed." Oh, we're gonna get into that as we're actually gonna take ourselves a little quick commercial break. When we get back, I'm gonna be revealing my surprise, and I'll probably be talking a little bit more MLB. So you're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Drivers, start your engines. Auto racing takes many forms, from the close quarter contact of NASCAR
to the high-speed, high-risk atmosphere of IndyCar,
all the way to the pinnacle of technology with the Formula One World Championship.
No matter if you prefer the high banks of Daytona,
the concrete canyons of Long Beach,
or the flowing curves of the Nürburgring,
the international language of motorsports is simple. Go fast,
run hard,
and come home first.
So join us, myself, Darrell Kinsey Jr.,
Lolita Camello,
and Michael Ward,
on a world tour of all the best motorsports has to offer on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, only on your home for all. That is sports, i.e. Sports Radio.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for the defining moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
And we are back with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. If you all are in the chat room of the Spreaker chat room, you'll probably be seeing I have a little surprise for you all. But until then, I'm actually going to finish up my little baseball segment. So, the Padres, obviously the Dodgers are the number one seed in the National League, and they could clinch home field advantage throughout the entire wild card series because everything's going to be neutral after the wild card rounds. As for the other team, the other SoCal team in the National League, being the Padres, they are 4 games behind the Dodgers in the NL West and for the best record in the National League. The Padres actually gave the Dodgers some sort of trouble in their previous series as they managed to take a game off them, but then the Dodgers took the next 2, which is disappointing for them. Tonight, the Padres play the Mariners at Seattle. Surprised that game is still going to be going on, considering the air quality has not been the best. So we'll see what happens with the Padres, because I think the Mariners are a little bit better than expected. So yeah, I think. I really think the Padres can close out the Mariners with not too many problems. The problem with the Mariners is that the Mariners have postseason ambitions as well, because you jump to the AL West, they're only 3 games back of the Astros. Now, that may seem like a lot, but it's not overly that much. Like, Seattle's kind of been hanging on because the Houston Astros were on a little bit of a cold streak. They even lost 4 straight to the Angels, and I think they lost... 2 of 3 to the Oakland A's, and then last weekend they split the series against the Dodgers, which was disappointing because I think the Dodgers could have actually taken both games, and Larry B in the chat room, love you, man. And big shout to Davidson Crooks that's in the chat room as well. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. So, speaking of the ALS, it's a good segue to go to the Angels, which, the good news is they're not in last place. The bad news is they're 4.5 games back of the Houston Astros. And the worst part is they would need to win all of their games to guarantee they don't have a losing season. If not, then they'll be having a losing season for, I believe, the 4th straight year. So, the Angels... The Angels' schedule gets pretty robust after this weekend, of course. Tonight they start Tonight they start a 4-game series against the Texas Rangers, and it's their last 4 home games of the season. So after their 4-game series against the Rangers, they can say bye-bye to Angels Stadium because they got to play their next 5 games on the road. Because next Tuesday they have a 2-game series at San Diego against the Padres, and then they close out the regular season with a 3-game series at the Chavez Ravine, a.k.a. Dodger Stadium. So if the Angels do suddenly go 30-30, then maybe that should be a document, especially if the Angels actually make the playoffs. But it's looking doubtful for the Angels. Like, it's only a matter of time before Houston gets it going all together, so... That's kind of my little spiel. I definitely think the Padres still can make the playoffs because heading back to the standings, we have the Padres 32-19, 4 games back of the Dodgers. However, the closest team to the Padres behind them are the San Francisco Giants, which have postseason ambitions of their own, being 25-24. And the Giants are actually trying to play a nice little spoiler to the Mariners' postseason hopes, as they took 2 of 3 against the Mariners. 1 game was actually postponed, I'm pretty sure because of lack of air quality, so I don't know how they're going to be making up that game, which they actually will be making up that game, which I guess it was only a 2-game series. They made it up yesterday. So the Giants actually are still in the postseason hunt, and I think that they could be a team to watch for, and they could possibly give the Dodgers some trouble, because the Dodgers always seem to get their ugly games against the Giants of all teams. I don't know why, but it just is what it is. So Dodgers fans, you better be praying you don't see the Giants. As we have another little person in the chat room. Big shout to Marcus Looks Great saying, what up? No. And he says, didn't realize that we were on. Yes, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show is now going to be on Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific time, but it may change to 4 p.m. Pacific time. But I think for purposes of my next little category, it's going to be 5 p.m. Pacific time. So we'll see. We shall see. But that's going to do it for the MLB portion. Now let's jump to the NBA. But first, it is time to introduce my guest today. I think you know who he is already, and he is a man that needs no introduction. He is the one, the only, Mr. Justin Rodriguez, my brother from the same mother. Justin, how you doing today?
Pretty good, Teran. I was just about to ask you. I need no introduction after 3 episodes, but then you go ahead and introduce me. So apparently, I still need an introduction.
Yes. Oh, and this is actually considered a special little day, because today is actually Justin's birthday. He is turning the big 3-1. So big happy birthday shout out to you, Justin. How about one more applause button for him?
Thank you, bro.
Hey, no problem, man. We're going to be celebrating after this. We'll be celebrating responsibly, though, so
It's a good thing it's on a Friday.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So yeah, we are ready. So now let's talk. Now that you're here and you're in the building, ready and willing, let's talk some NBA action. So in honor of you turning 31, let's start off with the big elephant in the room. The Clippers blowing a 3-1 lead. I couldn't believe this. I just don't know what happened with the Clippers. They were up 3-1. I think they were up by like 15-17 against the Nuggets late in the third quarter. And then what happened was the Clippers stopped playing basketball and they allowed the Nuggets to come back and win. And eventually they won it in 7, and the Clippers are out of the playoffs. And they still haven't gotten out of the second round of the playoffs. So
Yeah. Just when you thought the Clippers, had this locked up, and they're on their title run, and we're gonna get the series we've all been waiting for, Lakers versus Clippers, showdown of LA. Sorry, I messed that up. I meant to say when we get, just when you thought the Clippers were going to win, and they go and just be the Clippers. I can't believe this. This is the second time in the last 5 years, they've blown a 3-1 series lead with 2 different teams.
Yeah, it was very disappointing, and you have every right to play that little Price is Right losing horn. So, matter of fact, I'm gonna one-up that. A little bit of a laughing sound. So, and let's throw the Kawhi laugh in there one time. Yeah, obviously we gotta get the Kawhi.
Well,
laugh.
Kawhi ain't laughing now.
Yeah, he's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was definitely a disappointment. I really expected better from the Clippers, considering I think that they could have definitely... I would have loved to see the Lakers versus Clippers conference final. And it's nothing against the Nuggets. Like, the Nuggets deserved all the credit. And I even said that the Nuggets may give the Clippers problems then everyone was saying, "Oh no, Teran, it's not gonna happen." And they were saying, "Don't talk about Denver, the Denver Nuggets. This is the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, not the Denver Supreme Sports Show." But
I was one of them. I picked the Clippers in 5.
And I picked.
What do I
Clippers
feel
in 6.
stupid?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I'm still at a loss for words. So.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was at a loss. You know, I was watching the game. I was waiting for something to happen. You know, I was waiting for, you know, Kawhi to get going. You know, but I think I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but I think like somebody tweeted that, like, you know, Kawhi, Paul George, and Lou Williams went like a combined 14 for 52 or something like that. Yeah, it was a bad game for all three of them. You know, bad series in general for Lou Williams.
Yeah, that's not like him. It seemed like his mind was still at Magic City. So, yeah, it still just bothers me. Like, at least Paul George actually showed up. He was playoff P instead of poor shooting P. So, yeah, it just still bothers me. Like, nothing against the Nuggets, but the Clippers with that much talent, with like Kawhi Leonard, Lou Williams, Pat Beverly, Ivica Zubac, Paul George, you get the little rundown.
Yeah, Game 7, Kawhi went 6 for 22. Paul George 4 for 16. Marcus Morris Sr. 2 for 9. And Lou Williams 3 for 11.
Exactly. With that talent, you should definitely win. That series shouldn't even be going 7.
Especially when you have a 2-time champion in Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly. Like, everyone is regarding Kawhi Leonard as this god, and they're even saying that if Kawhi leads the Clippers to a championship, he could be the new GOAT, which is kind of shocking, honestly. And
he would have been the first player in NBA history to lead 3 different teams to 3 different championships.
Exactly, and that's the disappointing part, and that he didn't really show up, especially in game 7. He only had 14 points. They only made 9 threes, which compared to the Nuggets, it's not overly that much. But Jamal Murray, man, that dude was on one. He had 6 threes for 40 points. So
he was a beast. He's been a beast, you know, in both rounds of these playoffs.
Yeah, and Nikola Jokic was also good as well, having 16 points, 22 rebounds, and 13 assists for a triple-double. Basically, he was a bigger Magic Johnson. Almost all their starters were in double figures. The only one that wasn't in double figures was Paul Millsap, but that could be forgiven. So, honestly, the Clippers basically go bye-bye. No more Clipper. No more Clip City, Chip City. Sorry, every Clippers fan. But better luck next year. But now all the Clippers fans are probably going to be saying, "Oh, we don't care about this AAU championship. Next year we'll win the real thing next year." So, or something like that. So, either way, bye-bye Clippers. At least you'll have all the time to be eaten at Magic City. You'll get all those lemon-peppered wings, especially lemon pepper Lou.
You don't think they're gone already? They might have left. You know, the bubble in Orlando, just gone home.
Yeah, they probably did, but knowing them, they may have taken a little bit of a detour and maybe gone to Magic City to get those nice, delicious wings, especially for Lou Williams, a.k.a. Lemon Pepper Lou. So with that...
Yeah, maybe Lou. Kawhi's not that guy, though.
Yeah.
He doesn't really go out a lot.
Yeah, he's Mr. He's still fun guy, but not too fun guy. But with that being said, we now have ourselves the Western Confernce Final starting tonight. The Lakers and the Clippers. The Lakers making their first Western Confernce Finals appearance since 2010. Well, I believe the Nuggets are the same deal as well. So it's been a long time coming for both teams. And
09 was.
Oh yeah, 09. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the Suns that year. But Yeah, that was the last time they made the conference finals, and that year the Lakers actually beat them in the conference finals, and they wound up winning the whole shebang.
I remember, the Nuggets had some decent players on that team. Carmelo Anthony in his prime, obviously. Chauncey Billups. J.R. Smith was a member of that team. Dante Jones, remember him? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a major flashback.
The Birdman. Wasn't the Birdman on that team as well?
Yeah,
Chris Anderson?
Birdman. Now we've got ourselves a whole different Nuggets team, whole different Lakers team. So with that being said, I definitely expect the Lakers to win this series because they've come too far just to lose to the Nuggets of all teams. That said, I don't expect the Lakers to get an easy series. Like everyone who's thinking, oh, they're gonna win, they're gonna sweep, or they'll win in 5. I said that the Lakers are gonna win in 6 because I definitely think it wouldn't surprise me if the Nuggets lost, if the Nuggets won Game 1 and the Lakers lost Game 1 because every Game 1 they've had this playoff bubble wise, they've lost Game 1 and then they wound up making it a gentleman's sweep. So I definitely expect the Lakers to be prepared, though. Like, they can't not be prepared. I mean, obviously they've had a lot of rest, but they got to be on their A game, because if not, then they'll meet the same fate as the Jazz and the Clippers. And like I said, they've come too far just to lose in the conference finals. They want the whole thing. They can't be satisfied. They want it all. They need to be hungry, because when it comes, they're the last top seed in the playoffs. Let alone, I was also going to say like the last. They are the last top 2 team in the playoff in the East and the West, because the Clippers lost to, and they were the number 2 seed. The Bucks and the Raptors lost in the conference semifinals. So anything can happen, but the Lakers definitely have to have their guard up, and they cannot underestimate this Nuggets team, because with that much talent on the Nuggets, they're really starting to show that they are a contender, and that they were probably the dark horse of the Western Conference. So with that said, Justin, I'll give the floor to you on what the Lakers need to do in order to take down the Denver Nuggets and make it back to the promised land for the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Well, they got to keep doing what they've been doing these first couple rounds, and what they've been doing pretty much all year. Just play defense, play lockdown defense, especially on the perimeter. Who guards Jamal Murray? I was listening to Mason in Ireland earlier today, and when Anthony Davis is guarding Jamal Murray, Jamal Murray really struggled against Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis may be a big, but he can keep up with Jamal Murray. He can guard the perimeter. That's what makes him such a valuable player on the team. The Lakers don't have to be afraid of switching. If they have to switch, or if say Jokic or any of their bigs set a pick, Davis can switch and pick up Murray. If they just stay on it and talk to each other on defense, and execute their offense properly. If Rajon Rondo becomes continues being playoff Rondo, a guy, they should be fine. Oh, and by the way, so speaking of playoff nicknames, Rajon Rondo earned his nickname, Playoff Rondo. Didn't Paul George give himself that nickname, Playoff P?
Yes.
And Steve Mason said it best. When you give yourself a nickname, you ruin it. Or no, it wasn't Steve Mason. It was John Ireland. When you give yourself a nickname, you ruin it for yourself. Don't give yourself a nickname. You've got to earn it. Rondo's earned his nickname. He's won a championship, and he's come up big in playoff series. Paul George has done the opposite.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, to me, I think this was a golden opportunity for Paul George to to maybe win a championship and to prove himself as playoff P, but it's quite the opposite. And for those of you that don't know, Rondo was on that 2008 Celtics team, which, they might have. I think the Lakers could have won that series with Andrew Bynum, but since he got hurt, the poor guy, the Lakers had to put Powell at the 5, and they had to put Lamar Odom at the 4, and then they slipped Devin George in the lineup at the 3, and then Kobe was the 2, and then Derek Fisher was the 1. So Marcus says, I don't ever want him to refer to himself as playoff P ever again. So, facts, Marcus. I don't want him to refer to himself as playoff P ever again. Like, poor shooting P is more like it. So, yeah. So, anyway. So, to me, I think the Lakers... this kind of makes me wonder. So, last round, the Lakers had to play small ball with the Rockets, and it eventually worked, and it backfired on the Rockets because, well, the Rockets are the kings of the regular season, not the postseason, and the Lakers exploited that. So my little question is this: do the Lakers abandon the small ball counter, or do they go back to Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, and Anthony Davis down? Well, they're obviously going to keep Anthony Davis in there, but do they bring back Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee into the lineup to pretty much swat everything and protect the post? To me, I think they should bring back JaVale and Dwight, considering how are they going to guard Nikola Jokic? Because they can't have Anthony Davis guarding him, otherwise that could be somewhat of a mismatch. And who would guard Jamal Murray? I mean, I wouldn't say LeBron could guard him. It's not that LeBron can't guard him, but I just think that Jamal might be a little too crisp for LeBron. Maybe Rondo? So, what do you think, Justin? Do you think the Lakers abandon the small ball strategy and bring Dwight and JaVale back into the mix, or do they keep going with the small ball counter?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be back. You know, they just did that. You know, they just switched to small ball temporarily to match up better with the Rockets, because, you know, even in Game 2, which they won, you know, they still struggled against the Rockets. All 5, you know, 5-player small ball lineup, you know, because they would bring the bigs out to the perimeter, which, you know, that's not Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee's strength. You know, they're not built to guard the perimeter. Anthony Davis is, but the other two aren't. So they went small to keep up with the Rockets, and they made it work. You know, but you know, like you said, now they're going up against a big who is a very skilled big man and tough to defend. So I don't know who guards Nikola Jokic. It might have to be Anthony Davis, because again, Nikola Jokic is such a skilled big man. He's almost like a bigger, stronger version of Dirk Nowitzki. You know, he could post up, he could shoot from long distance, and he's got that sort of Dirk Nowitzki, what do you call that? One-legged off balance jumper. Mm-hmm. He just hit like the craziest shots in that Clippers series. So I think Anthony Davis is their best option to guard Nikola Jokic, in my opinion. But at the same time, yeah, if you're going to have Anthony Davis guarding Jokic, especially if Jokic is on the high post, then you need another big to patrol the paint.
Absolutely, and those are some great points. And it's not just Nikola Jokic who's got some good height. I mean, Nikola Jokic is obviously 7 feet, and he's the biggest player on the team. But they also have Michael Porter Jr. Now, that guy, if you're in his way, you better get out of it. Otherwise, he's going to baptize you just like his daddy did to every other defender that tried to
Yeah, the Nuggets have a lot of great shooting guards, but at the same time, the Lakers have been up against great shooting guards, like Portland with Lillard and McCollum, and of course the Houston Rockets with James Harden. I mean Russell Westbrook's been on the decline shooting wise, but still they were able to handle him and those shooters well. So why can't they handle Denver? Is my question.
Agreed, and I definitely agree with you on that. And there are also some other good players on Denver as well, such as Jeremy Grant, Gary Harris Jr., like I said, Michael Porter when he's on his A game. Monte Morris is pretty solid.
Morris is good.
Yeah, Monte Morris.
Yeah, Denver's no joke. I agree with you. I've got the Lakers in 6. But unlike the Jazz and the Clippers, a team with LeBron on it's not going to blow it.
Totally agree.
I'd be absolutely shocked if Denver beat the Lakers.
Yeah, and I don't think LeBron's ever blown a 3-1 lead in his lifetime. There's not a first time for everything. Like, LeBron is on a mission because he knows he's not going to be getting younger, so he needs to make the most of everything going forward. So, yeah, I definitely got to say Lakers in 6, and anyone who thinks otherwise or anyone who agrees with the Lakers winning, definitely let us know in the chat room. And if you say otherwise, then definitely feel free to reply to me, whether it's via Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Well, you can't really comment on Instagram that much since you're not clicking the links. It doesn't work that way on Instagram. But that's besides the point. The point is, we both have the Lakers winning, and and moving on to the Eastern Conference, the Miami Heat, my goodness, the Miami Heat have definitely shown why they belong in the Eastern Conference Finals. They have a 2-0 lead on the Celtics, which Marcus is probably not going to like to listen to, but yeah, the Miami Heat, man, for a 5 seed, they look nowhere near like a 5 seed. They look like a 2 seed almost, maybe a 3 seed. So, sweeping the Pacers, beating the Bucks in 5, even though Giannis Antetokounmpo was beating up the latter of the series, and then having a 2-0 lead over Boston. What are your thoughts about the Miami Heat this playoff wise, as they are 10-1 in playoff games this year?
My only word on the Miami Heat's playoff run is stunning. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. I mean, who would have thought of all teams the Miami Heat would emerge as, I don't want to crown them prematurely, but so far they are proven to be the beasts of the East. I was listening to Brian Windhorst, senior basketball writer from ESPN. He was on the Mason and Ireland show earlier today, and he talked about why the Miami Heat are doing so well, while other teams like Denver are just emerging as this like surprise team, as these surprise teams in these basketball bubble playoffs. And the reason why is just what I said. The only way to explain it is just what I said. It's a bubble. They're playing the playoff structure. Well, I shouldn't say structure, but the way the locale and the way that these playoffs have been set up, especially with a 3 or 4 month layoff, you can't deny that's had an impact on a lot of these teams, like Milwaukee, like the Clippers, the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler at the helm are just more built for this. Jimmy Butler is a is a very, very tough, gritty competitor, and matching him with a proven champion coach in Eric Spoelstra and his teammates who are willing to buy into to Spoelstra's system and Jimmy Butler's work ethic. It's just come together for the Miami Heat, and I don't know. It just seems like same with the Lakers, and it just seems like teams like Milwaukee and the Clippers, and maybe even the Boston Celtics just aren't built for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's not just one player, it's multiple players. It's not just one person being the hero.
But he's being the leader though. Do they get this far? Do they even win the first round without Jimmy Butler?
No, absolutely. Jimmy Butler has definitely been an amazing player. And even when he has off nights, there's always one other player to step up, like Bam Adebayo, James Crowder, Goran Dragic, Duncan Robinson. Tyler Hero off the bench has been good. Like everyone's calling him Hero Ball, and there's no. He definitely deserves that nickname, and the fact that he at a young age coming out of University of Kentucky has definitely done wonders for the Heat, and this could probably be one of the more shocking things ever. Like, if I will say this, it's certainly not over yet, and yes, Marcus says we will beat the Heat, and he says why we throw the season here, and he says we will beat the Heat. You heard it first. I will say this in regards to Marcus, and I knew he was going to get angry about us.
Of course.
But Justin and I are basketball studs. Like, he is a huge basketball fan, so that's why we kind of got to throw in every bit of NBA. So I will say this, it's certainly not over yet. The Celtics definitely can come back. But if they lose tomorrow, it's all over. Like,
I agree.
No team is going to come back. No team has come back from no NBA team has come back from a 3-0 deficit. And I would say another team came back from a 3-0 deficit in another sport, but I don't think Marcus wants me to talk about that. So,
yeah, you better lay off.
But I definitely would not underestimate the Celtics. I think the Celtics certainly have a chance, but they got to win Game 3 tomorrow.
They have to win tomorrow.
Yeah, if not, then the Celtics will pretty much have to go back and to cheer for the Patriots. Or if you're Marcus, cheer for the 49ers. So we'll see. But I said the Heat in 6, but the Celtics, I expected some sort of fight from the Celtics. But I think if I had to bet, I'd pick the Celtics to win Game 3. But again, they have to show up. Like, I believe the Celtics had leads in both games 1 and 2, and then suddenly they just had their switch flipped off, and then they eventually just dropped both games, which has them in a little bit of a predicament. But I still think the Celtics are still very much alive. Again, it's just all about if they can show up, because I think you said this last week. The Celtics can only go as far as
Kemba Walker.
Yeah, Kemba Walker takes them.
Yeah, Kemba Walker said it himself after Game 1. I haven't been playing well. I got to do better, and yet, he has to. He's got to. Yeah, he's got to step up. Jason Tatum's got to step up. Yeah, I mean they're the leader. They're the leaders of the team, and if their leaders aren't showing up, if they're asleep at the wheel, there's no way that team can win. I pick the Celtics at 7. That still has a chance, but I agree with you. The Celtics have to win Game 3. Maybe it's just because a part of me just wants, since we didn't get Lakers Clippers this series, a part of me wants Lakers Celtics in the finals, and I so want the Lakers to win and tie the Celtics in championships. Marcus.
Yes. You don't have to. Let's be nice to him.
No, I'm rooting for him this round.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, and I definitely think the Celtics they didn't get this far just to lose. Just like the Nuggets, they didn't get this far to lose in the conference finals. They have to.
Hey, again, I've said this before. I've said this several times. I'm going to say it again. This is a bubble. It's a neutral site. Anything can happen. So Marcus shouldn't give up hope yet. The Celtics can still come back and win, but the Nuggets obviously did it twice. It was 3-1, but the Celtics have to win tomorrow, or else I agree it's over. No way Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley are allowing their team to blow a 3-0 series lead and lose.
I definitely agree, and I wonder if the Heat actually do make the finals, will we be seeing all those bandwagoning Heat fans from back in the Big Three era, where they pretty much were rooting for LeBron and D. Wade and Chris Bosh to win the championship. So I wonder if we'll be getting all those bandwagoners back. But
oh, sure. Of course we will.
Yeah. Those bandwagoner fans were also Warriors fans, which were also Cavs fans, which were also Heat
which
fans.
we'll probably have some bandwagon Laker fans, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we're the diehards. We are the diehards.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, nobody can question that. And if you do, the nerve of you. So I think that's going to be enough for the NBA. So let's go on to some NFL action. Then we'll send everyone on their way because my brother and I got to get ready for Din Din as we got to celebrate my brother's birthday. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? So quick and dirty. We'll start with your team first, Justin. The Rams. So the Rams pulled off a close victory against the Dallas Cowboys. To me, everyone probably thinks it wasn't pass interference, but I think it was just enough for Michael Gallup to... I think Jalen Ramsey kind of sold the call just enough for it to be PI. I will say this, A.J. Green's pass interference in the Bengals-Chargers game was more pass interference than Michael Gallup's offensive pass interference. So, but to me, I was pretty disappointed in the... I was expecting the Rams to win by a little bit more. I picked the Cowboys, which... Oops. but yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You and everybody in the chat room made fun of me for picking the Rams to win on Sunday. I had a good feeling, and what happened?
And the
SoFi magic.
Yes.
Even without fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this was... I'm not going to try to call this person out, but on 3 and Out, Larry was flabbergasted on why... I guess he was kind of flabbergasted at the fact that the Cowboys lost to the Rams. I thought the Rams were... I mean, I don't think the Rams are a bad team, but he kind of bagged on the Rams this week. He thinks he has the Eagles beating the Rams this week, which I definitely disagree, considering the Eagles are just so beaten up, and it's only a matter of time before Aaron Donald goes after Carson Wentz. So, I mean, I have the Rams winning this week. I think they'll make it 2-for-2 against the AFC East teams, but honestly, it's going to be tough. It seems like no matter how bad the Eagles are, the Rams find some way to lose to the Eagles, but I'm not making the same mistake twice, and I'm picking the Rams. And Larry, to quote Larry, he was like, now, if the Eagles lose this game, I don't know what to say. But to me, I think the Rams are somewhat of an underrated team. I don't think they're a great team. I don't think they're going to win Lombardi this year. I don't think they're going to win the NFC West. But I think they'll at least get go 2-0 against the or against the Eagles. I think the Rams go 2-0 with a tight win over the
Eagles.
Of the Eagles, yes. Yeah, sorry if I'm drawing a blank. So, Justin, your thoughts on the Rams-Cowboys game?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody just forgot like just how solid the Rams defense was, and I forget there was a stat that
we also need to keep in mind that the Rams still have one of the best players in the league, being Aaron Donald.
How many yards did the Rams allow again?
That is a good question. I'm not entirely certain.
The only reason why I asked is because I heard a stat somewhere that the Rams allowed fewer yards on defense from the Cowboys than in any game last season under Wade Phillips.
And
that's saying a lot.
Yeah, and total yards for the Cowboys was 380, as opposed to the Rams' 422, which I guess that is pretty good. So
yeah, Dak Prescott passed for 266 yards.
Dak was a little quiet, honestly. But, I mean, they were also mainly feeding Ezekiel Elliott, but honestly, I think Dak was a little quiet. So
yeah, it was. Well, the Rams did a great job, manhandling him and really making Dak Prescott uncomfortable. So they did their thing, and they did enough to fortunately win the game. And I was listening to Rogan and Rodney the other day, and Mr. Ram himself, ED Eric Dickerson, it was great to see him in the virtual audience. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. I did see Eric Dickerson.
Yeah. So he commented. It's the Rams running back situation. Looks pretty good. With what's his name? Malcolm Brown. Yeah,
Malcolm Brown.
Malcolm Brown at the helm. I mean, yeah. Granted, it's only been one game, but, we missed Todd Gurley in his prime, but the Rams unfortunately had to let him go. I mean, he's been hurt a lot, and he just wasn't the same last year. So Malcolm Brown did his thing, and Jared Goff was pretty good too. He passed for 275 yards, and he's again, it's only been one game. I'm not ready to say he's the Jared Goff that brought the Rams to the Super Bowl. But he's got some weapons to work with, and I think he may have a chance for a comeback, but we'll see.
I definitely agree, and it looks like, I got news today from Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, one of the two, that I think C.J. Henderson, the running back C.J. Henderson, has retired from the NFL, as he went from undrafted NFL player to pretty much doing everything. He bounced around from every team, from like the Panthers to like the Rams. So it definitely means that the Rams have one less running back, and they're definitely going to want to bank on Malcolm Brown a whole lot more. So honestly, I think Malcolm Brown is going to get some more running yards. Cam Akers was pretty good as well. So so I definitely think
Robert Woods was good too. He had 6 catches for 105 yards.
Yeah. Receiving wise, he definitely was, and he just got an extension today. Like, I think he got a 4-year, $32 million extension, and there's a reason why he's called Old Reliable. And so, something funny that happened on the Rams' Twitter account. Hold on, guys. So he said, the Rams Twitter account, or whoever runs the Rams Twitter account, said, "Friendly reminder that we don't have the answers to your salary cap questions. We just run the social media here." Because obviously there were a lot of Rams fans saying, "Oh, we're gonna have salary cap issues, and we're gonna have draft pick issues.
But don't they have to know that stuff? Since they're running the official Twitter account of the Rams. I mean, there are social media. To quote to quote the Kamenetsky brothers from ESPN, there's a difference between fans and fanatics. Fanatics are hardcore fans who are just, tweeting up storms on their favorite team's Twitter accounts. And I'm not saying you have to respond to every tweet, but if you're going to get that many tweets in regards to, questions about, contracts or how good or bad Jared Goff is, don't you have to be prepared to answer those questions?
Yeah, you do, but sometimes you just don't want to feed the animals.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'm not saying you have to respond to every single tweet, and respond and argue with eggs, but I mean, I just still think it's weird that the Rams official Twitter account put out that statement.
Yeah, it did seem a little weird, but I guess I think it was more so of being funny, just because so many people were probably wondering about that. Maybe it was because maybe they were bandwagon Rams fans, or maybe they were fake former Chargers fans.
No, I doubt that. Those are hardcore fans. They're gonna ask questions like that on the Rams Twitter account. They're hardcore fans.
So looking at the Rams game against the Eagles, Philadelphia is actually favored by 1 point, and in the matchup predictor, the Eagles actually have a 53.8% chance of winning. So I'm a little surprised because the Eagles lost to the Washington football team. They had a 17-point lead toward the end of the second quarter, and then Washington, which has no mascot, managed to reel off a late touchdown, and they held Philadelphia to no points in the second half while scoring 17 of their own. And then Carson Wentz threw for 2 interceptions. He had 2 touchdowns, and then I think and their top receiver was their backup tight end their second tight end being Daniel Goddard, who normally plays second fiddle to Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz might be hurt. But looking at the full box score, yeah, he might actually be hurt. Zach Ertz might be no, he's not hurt. He had 18 yards, but he had such a off day, which is kind of surprising. That's not like Zach Ertz. If he's going to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL, like Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, he's got to do better. If you picked up Daniel Goddard in fantasy football, then you kind of picked yourself up a underrated player. So I think I still go with the Rams winning. I think they'll win by at least a one-score game. I think they win by 4. I'd say 27-23 to the Rams winning. I think they'll have a little. I think it'll still be close, but I just think the Rams will do everything in their power to win. As Justin and I both have the Laker game on, with the Lakers leading 7-4. So hopefully the Lakers can keep it up, because we want the Lakers in the NBA Finals. So, Justin, any more thoughts on the Rams and their game against the Eagles, or any Rams news in particular?
I don't really have any Rams news, but as far as the upcoming game, I feel like the Rams. I agree with you. I feel like the Rams can win. I think both teams are pretty much even. I think it can go either way. I just want to go on a little bit of a mini rant about the Rams and their look, as far as their logo and their uniforms. I mean, what do you think? What did you get a load of the Rams' new uniforms?
I did. I did see their uniforms, and yeah.
I mean, what are those?
Yeah, I mean, compare them to the Chargers. the Chargers blows the Rams uniforms out of the water. They look like practice uniforms.
Exactly. Thank you. My point. My point exactly. Like I did. When I saw the pregame ceremony, I saw the team that was kneeling. I didn't know who it was. Who is that? Is that the Rams? Is that the Cowboys? And then I recognized the Cowboy uniforms. I'm thinking, what are we thinking? Who's running this operation? Who's in charge of these uniforms? Our owner is Stan freaking Kroenke. He is not only a rich billionaire, but he's married to one too. He's married to a Walmart heiress. How? And that's the best you can come up with? Come on. If you think I'm on a roll with this uniform rant, go and listen to Eric Dickerson's rant. From this last Monday the 14th on the Rogan and Rodney podcast. He laid it out. He really told it straight. I mean, it was hilarious. But yeah. He said the same thing. They look like practice uniforms. It's like. We're not the Rams. We're just the team in white. Do like ED said. Go. If you're gonna change your uniform, go back to old school. This is Mr. Ram himself saying this. He is the old school. The old. Go back to the old school blue and gold, blue and yellow uniforms that ED wore back in the 80s. I mean. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Lakers since they moved to LA have been purple and gold for what? 5 decades at least. Going back to Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain. We bleed purple and gold. We bleed yellow, gold and powder blue for the Rams. Where's the white?
You're not wrong. I mean, when it comes to the Chargers and the Rams, one thing the Chargers have the number of the Rams is in terms of uniforms, which is actually a good segue.
Everybody has numbers on us in terms of uniforms. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at least
even the Washington football team, which I'm still until they actually get an actual name. For Washington, I'm still going to call. I'm sorry to be politically incorrect, but I'm still going to call them the Redskins. They are the Redskins until they get a name. I have no issue with them changing their name. Teams change their names all the time. The Washington Bullets changed their name to the. Ironically, another Washington pro team changed from the Bullets to the Wizards because. They didn't want to call themselves the Bullets, for obvious reasons. But you had time. You've had plenty of time and plenty of complaints to pick a name in case you were going to drop the Redskins' name. The Washington football team. It's just a joke. I'm sorry.
Yep, the team without any names. So. It still makes me wonder how the Eagles lost to Washington. So, again, Rams, you got to win this game. Like I think if the Rams win, then they'll prove that they are still relevant, despite not having the horses they did back in the day. So, or back in 2018. So,
one more quick question in regards to the Rams. What do you think? What do you think of the Rams extending Jalen Ramsey?
Well, I mean, with how much they gave up for him, they better be extending him long term, because I think if they don't,
do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, I mean, yes. With how many draft picks they lost this past year, and with how much they traded for him, I definitely think it was worth it. So, yeah, I mean. Ramsey better do good on the field, otherwise that could go down as one of the more questionable trades since DeAndre Hopkins got traded from the Texans to the Cardinals.
Well, Jalen Ramsey's a decent player, and obviously he saved the game. So we'll see. I will say this though. I agree with you. They should make him a permanent Ram, at least for the long term. I mean, Rams is in his name.
That's true. You're certainly not wrong on that one. So now let's segue into the Chargers, my team. So the Chargers barely squeaked out a win over the Cincinnati Bengals, which I'm happy they won, but I'm very disappointed on how they played. Like Tyrod Taylor, he didn't have any interceptions. He didn't fumble the ball. He was 16 for 30 for 208 yards. That's it. And he rushed a couple of times. But other than that, he wasn't overly impressive. Joe Burrow had a rushing touchdown. He was 23 for 36. He had 193 yards and one pick, which it wasn't all his fault. That was a rookie mistake. So I think, yesterday he looked so much better. Joe Burrow, to me, is the future of the NFL in terms of quarterbacks. So I think Joe Burrow is going to be doing big things. As for the Chargers' offense as a whole, they look so lackluster. Like, they were just pelting the Bengals with field goals. Even after getting big defensive stops, they just couldn't seal the deal. They kept going for 3 instead of going for 6, and that's not how you're going to win games, my friend. So, yeah. So I mean. And Marcus says, did you know the DirecTV NFL package is only $100 for students? Crazy.
Really? For college students?
I guess so, yeah. I didn't know this. I literally did not know this, but I guess that's a good little fun fact to know. So, thanks, Marcus. So, anyway, back to the Chargers Bengals. Their only touchdown was a rushing touchdown from their rookie from UCLA, Josh Kelly, which I guess that's pretty good considering he is a UCLA alum and this is the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, and that's amazing. What were you gonna say, Justin?
Well, I just had a quick question. Like how? Oh wait, never mind. I was thinking something else. Is that $100 for the entire season? Because otherwise, we used to have DirecTV. We don't anymore. But when we had DirecTV, it was like $46 or something like that, $46.49. But that was like per month, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
But is it $100 for the whole season for students?
Yeah. Marcus, if you could let us know, then that would be great. But this is just news to me. I didn't even know this whole.
Me neither.
Entire season, all the games. So yeah, $100 for the whole season and all.
Is there a code yet? Is there like a promo code or something you put in or something?
Yeah, yeah. If you could answer that, Marcus, that'd be great. Because again, this is news to me. Like I didn't even know this, so
you might take advantage of that since you're still technically a student.
Mm-hmm.
But you only be able to do it for this season, though.
Yeah, and we have the NFL Network, so because most of the games appear on like Fox and CBS, and I think it's mainly Rams games and Chargers games.
Yeah, that's how it works. If you just get like basic TV, or if you cut the cord and you don't have NFL Sunday Ticket, you just get your local teams every week. This last week was an exception because the Rams run NBC. We were able to get two out of market games on regular Fox. Including the new Brady Bucks game against Drew Brees and the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, if the Rams and the Chargers are on CBS and Fox like they normally are, then those are the only games you get if you're in the LA market.
Yes, and then there's always that random one game where you didn't know that they were going to be on like national TV, like the early game on Fox was the Vikings and the Packers, and I didn't even see the 10 a.m. game on CBS. There was like some cooking show that was going on. It's like, wait, what is this?
Like I said, that's how it works. They only. If the Chargers are playing that day, you only get the Charger game. You won't get any other game.
That's crazy. That is stupid. Like I'm.
It's just the NFL's way of making money. They want you to buy the whole package. If you're a diehard football fan, you got to buy the whole thing. And that's how they make their money from all these bars and bars, restaurants, and airports and stuff. They all have the NFL Sunday ticket, and they're willing to pay for it.
And Marcus agrees with you, and he also gave us the link to sign up for the whole NFL season if you're a student. So.
Okay.
So great stuff, Marcus. I'm glad you put that in the Spreaker chat room. So
we cut the cord. Can you get it on DirecTV now? Or I'm sorry, AT&T TV now?
Yeah. Well, hopefully he'll be able to respond in the chat room. And I definitely do appreciate you tuning in, Marcus. It really means a lot. So back to the Chargers-Bengals. I just think that the Chargers were keeping the Bengals way too much in this game. And I kind of think they got a little lucky with that pass interference. It was clearly pass interference. Everyone keeps saying it was not pass interference. It's like, no, A.J. Green pushed with both hands and then to make room. I get that Casey Hayward was kind of wrapping around A.J. Green, but A.J. Green just shoved off and then the refs were on top of him, and then eventually it was offensive pass interference. So sorry, Bengals fans. You all can argue with me. Like, all you NFL fans can argue with me, but it was indeed pass interference. Like, the refs are going to make that call. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And unfortunately, the Bengals kind of whiffed on that kick, which that's a worse way to lose. Losing off of I would say like it was a 31-yarder, and then the kicker missed, and that's supposed to be the Chargers' little spiel. Like, how do the Bengals out-charger the Chargers? It just blows my mind, and I kind of. But you want to know what could have helped the Cincinnati Bengals? Them not settling for field goals, just like the Chargers did. You want to know what else could have helped the Bengals? Joe Mixon fumbling the ball, because I definitely need to play you that sound. I definitely need to play you the Kevin Harlan soundbite, guys. But yeah, a lot of things the Bengals could have done could have definitely prevented the Chargers from winning, but I don't know. So. Now, okay, here's the soundbite. Guys. Here's the soundbite of Kevin Harlan regarding, I think it was Joe Mixon or Tyler Boyd or one of those two. Either way, this is what happened on one of the plays in the fourth quarter.
A tie game. With a second down and 7, it goes off to Mixon. Fumble the ball, and he never fumbles. And his old teammate Vigil is the one to vacuum it in. Oh my goodness, Mixon never fumbles the ball.
Yeah, Joe Mixon. Yeah, it was Joe Mixon. So, yeah, I kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, in a clutch situation like that, you gotta hold on to that rock for as long as possible. You gotta hold on for dear life. So, but that call right there from Kevin Harlan, where he said fumble the ball and he never fumbles. It's like that just goes. That's gonna be on Kevin Harlan's best calls in the NFL. Because obviously he had the black cat when in the Giants-Cowboys Monday Night Football game. Then he had the
squirrel.
I didn't know about the squirrel, but there was...
Remember there was a game where a squirrel ran out onto the field, and he called the squirrel run to the end zone. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. 10, 5, touchdown.
Yeah, same with the black cat, and then it was also last year's game between the Chargers and the Chiefs where he was calling both games, and he was like, "I'm calling both games." Yeah, it was the last game of the season, but it was an important game for the Chiefs considering the Chiefs needed to win and the Patriots needed to lose, and yeah, Kevin Harlan is just such a treasure when it comes to the NFL and the NBA, so I definitely love having Kevin Harlan when it comes to announcing games. It makes it so exciting. Him and Sparrow Adidas are highly underrated. So anyway.
I don't think Kevin Harlan's underrated. I mean he's been calling football and basketball for decades. I mean anybody who's never heard, if you're a sports fan like we are, you've heard him call something.
Absolutely, yes. And I guess this would also be a good time to congratulate Joe Buck on being introduced to, I think it's the NFL Hall of Fame, and for having called a lot of great games. And last year,
really? Okay.
Yeah, he was honored by the NFL in last night's game when he and Troy Aikman called the Browns Bengals game. And I even tweeted out, I don't care what anyone says. Joe Buck does a great job with what he does, and everyone calls him Unenthusiastic Joe or something like that. I think he does a great job. Like everyone needs to stop complaining sometimes. Like
I never really understood the criticism on Joe Buck. I mean it's funny to hear somebody like Steve Mason ripping Joe Buck. I mean he always comes up with these conspiracy theories that he's like anti-Dodgers or something like that. But for me that's just Mace being Mace. But I think Joe is just kind of like he's sort of like a conversationalist, sort of like, I shouldn't say, sort of like Vince Scully, only Vince Scully does have a little more fire, and he knows how to tell great stories, from a historical perspective, as it relates to the Dodgers as well, because he's definitely seen a lot more than Joe Buck. But at the same time, Joe Buck's seen a lot too through his dad. For those that don't know, Joe Buck is the son of the legendary great announcer Jack Buck. He called the Cardinals for a long time, and he called a lot of World Series on the radio.
Yeah, absolutely, and I just don't get the slander, and everyone liked Jack Buck better than Joe, but I think they're both equally great. Like we gotta learn to stop with the hate and just appreciate greatness.
Well, Jack Buck had a lot of great baseball calls. I mean the Ozzie Smith call, "Go Crazy Folks," the Kirk Gibson home run. I mean, everybody knows the Vince Scully call, but Jack Buck's call on Kirk Gibson's home run is equally as good.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, yeah. Back to the Chargers. The Chargers are 1-0, which is a miracle beyond miracles. The fact that they even beat the Bengals was a complete and utter mind-blowing, especially the ending where the Bengals kicker missed a 31-yard field goal. So now the Chargers have a big-time challenge on their hands this week. They play in their first game at SoFi Stadium against the reigning Super Bowl champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's going to be on Sunday at 1:25 p.m. Chargers and Chiefs fans will get a treat as they get Tony Romo and Jim Nantz calling that game, which your game is important when those two are calling the game. So, or you're just local in Los Angeles. Either way, I think this one's going to be really tough for the Chargers to win, and it's they're already beaten up on defense as they don't have Derwin James. Drew Tranquill, Derwin James is out the year. Drew Tranquill is out the year with a broken leg. Mike Pouncey, their center, is going to need season-ending hip surgery. So, and coming into this week, Joey Bosa didn't practice on Wednesday, but he did practice the remainder of the day, so he should be a lock to play. So it's just going to be so tough for the Chargers to beat the Chiefs, considering the Chiefs tore past the Texans. And honestly, if the Chargers the only saving grace the Chargers might have are if they force 2+ turnovers, because the Chargers are 39-6 when they force 2 or more turnovers against the opposing team. So their defense is really going to need to step up. But you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they have such great talent, such as Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position, and then his receivers are no slouches either, with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, the former LA Ram, Mecole Hardman. And then their running game has now taken off with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And he had such a great rookie performance. It's starting to become unfair just because everyone thought that their run game was going to leave a lot to be desired after Damian Williams opted out because of COVID reasons. But now with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the final first-round pick of the NFL draft, or this past NFL draft, that just gives the Chiefs one more option. So, if anything, the Chargers are really going to need to step up. I mean, I just don't see the Chargers winning. I'm not trying to be mean, and I am a fan. I am a Chargers fan, but I know when the Chargers are not going to win, and when they're going to win. And when it comes to this game, I just don't see them winning. So I think they'll at least try to make it respectable. If they lose by less than 14 points, I would be a little happy. But I just see the Chiefs just running away with it in the end. It may even get to the point where Anthony Lynn has to throw Justin Herbert, the Chargers' first-round pick, in there. So the defense pretty much carried the Chargers in the win against the Bengals. They're pretty much gonna have to carry the Chargers in this game against the Chiefs. And Tyrod Taylor cannot have a bad game like he did this past Sunday against the Bengals. If he does, then the Chargers will just be pelting the Chiefs with field goals, which just will not work. So, you have something you want to say, Justin?
Oh yeah. Just to touch up on your point of Tyrod Taylor. I will say this. Again, our main man, Mr. Ram, Eric Dickerson, he had some praise for Tyrod Taylor. He not necessarily for his overall game, but the way he finished the game. I mean, walk me back. I guess he was talking about the last couple minutes of the game. So what did he save the? I didn't watch the game, so you'll have to fill me in. Did Tyrod Taylor save the game with a touchdown, or did the Chargers win on a field goal?
The Chargers eventually hit a go-ahead field goal.
Okay. Thank you. Well, in any case, Teran Taylor did put the Chargers in a position to win that game. So that's why ED praised Teran Taylor. He said and I only say that because he says if Phillip Rivers were the quarterback, the Chargers would have lost that game.
And that's actually a good segue to go into this next little topic of Phillip Rivers.
How much time do we have? Do we have to wrap up?
Yeah, well, after we talk the Chargers, then we're pretty much going to wrap up. But Rivers did not have the best season opener with the Colts, as the Colts lost to the Jaguars 27-20, which I was so surprised. So, yeah, to me, I think that was more disappointing. And Eric Dickerson might be right. I will say this. Taylor didn't have any, like I said, he didn't have any interceptions. He didn't fumble the ball. He just wasn't, I think he overshot his receivers, and I think he played it safe, honestly. I think he played too safe and conservative. I mean, sometimes you got to play that way in order to win, but I do remember that the Chargers got all the way down to like the 3-yard line, the 2-yard line, and they decided to not run it in for some reason. They just decided not to use Austin Eckler or Justin Jackson. They tried to go with Josh Kelly, but he got stuffed on the first run. So, or this kind of makes me wonder, why didn't Taylor just run it in himself on a quarterback sneak? Either way, I'm not disappointed in Taylor, but he definitely needs to play better against the Chiefs. So I definitely got to see him putting on his big boy pants and hopefully just making the game respectable. At least getting his first throwing touchdown, because this isn't garbage time, and there is no more Phillip Rivers. So I'm just hoping the Chargers can make it respectable, and it's not going to be like a blowout. Otherwise, we might need to see Justin Herbert, because who knows what how bad this can be. So on that note, I think we're going to wrap up here, considering we've pretty much touched upon everything, and we're pretty much not out of time, but we're pretty much going to need to get ready for dinner and all that. So, do you have any other parting thoughts before we sign off, Justin? Mr. Birthday Boy?
Yeah, just one real quick point about Eric Dickerson and the Chargers. You know, you said we're gonna need a swear jar or something every time we say Tyrod Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Eric Dickerson called him Tyrod, so I don't know what to call him anymore. I think Tyrod is a little awkward in my opinion. I mean, I just keep hearing Tyrod Taylor, so I don't know what you say about that.
I definitely need a swear jar every time we call Tyrod. So
it's like Terrell Owens versus Terrell Owens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely true. It's kind of like my name, where sometimes people call me Teran instead of Teran. Or
yeah, but there's no mistaking your name, though. I mean, Terrell, Tyrod, Tyrod. It's like tomato. It's like, do we pick one or the other? Can you? And another quick point. I just wanted to throw out some of the Denver 3-1 comeback stats by the numbers. So first of all, this is so. Did everybody in the chat know, and everybody who's listening, I should say, know that the Denver Nuggets are the first team to come back from 2 3-1 deficit comebacks in the same postseason, and this is also only the second time that 2 3-1 deficit comebacks happened in the same postseason overall. The first one being just from 4 years ago. The Golden State Warriors came back from 3-1 in Western Confernce Finals to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then Cleveland did it to Golden State in the NBA Finals. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Looked like LeBron went down awkwardly and. He stepped on, who is that? Jeremy Grant's foot, and he might have turned an ankle.
Well, he's staying on there, and he's going to be making his free throws. So, yeah, that's something you don't want to see if you're a Laker.
We've seen that a lot. Yeah, he's going to the free throw line. He's shooting. And he barely even hit rim on that first free throw. Let's pray that he's okay.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to see if you're a Lakers fan, seeing your star player get hurt, and he's just been on a tear this playoffs, almost averaging a triple-double when it comes to the playoffs. As Lakers are up 40-38, but this is definitely going to be a challenge.
Yeah. He's staying on the court. He's hanging in there, but he's wincing a little in pain. I don't want to alarm people, but but keep your eyes on this game. No, LeBron's a guy who hardly ever gets hurt and ever misses any games, let alone playoff games. But anyway, going back to the 3-1. What else was I gonna say? And I mentioned this in a tweet. You can follow me at CSUF _JRod1. The Doc Rivers also. Let me preface by saying this. Only 13 times has a team come back from a 3-1 deficit to win a best-of-7 playoff series. As I mentioned, Denver is responsible for 2 of those just this year. The Clippers are responsible for losing 2 series after leading 3-1, and for Doc Rivers, this is his 3rd time losing a series after being up 3-1. Doc's a good guy, and I still think he's a great coach, but that does not look good on his resume. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree, and it looks like LeBron's ankle might be better because he just scored on a breakaway dunk. So hopefully it won't be too bothersome. Well, it wasn't a breakaway dunk, but it was like a good little give and go from Alex Caruso. But I think that's going to be it for tonight's little episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you, Mr. Justin Rodriguez, for joining me for this episode, and happy birthday yet again. So
thank you. Thanks for having me.
And definitely do continue to follow IE Sports Radio and their shows. In less than 20 minutes, we will have the Neutral Zone be going live with Mr. Robert Kavanaugh. So definitely tune into that. And without any further delay, let's get on out of here because it is almost supper time for us. Well, it's past our supper time, but you get the rest. It's time for some birthday supper time for my brother. So thank you yet again to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. If you're listening to the replay, I definitely do appreciate you tuning in live. I definitely appreciate you. And if you continue to support IE Sports Radio, definitely appreciate it. Because without you, we don't amount to much. For my guest, Justin Rodriguez, and everyone who does IE Sports Radio, have a great rest of the week. Next time. Good night, everybody, and remember, SoCal is the showtime.